Now, for weeks, Donald Trump has promised that all countries in the world would be hit by higher US tariffs. But some countries were notably absent from the list Trump presented at the White House, including Russia, Belarus, Cuba and North Korea. The reason, according to administration officials, is that Cuba, Belarus and North Korea already face high tariffs and tough sanctions, and the US has no meaningful trade with Russia.
That's tariffs charged to the
Elina Ribakova is a non-resident senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Great to have you with us. Trump's team says no new tariffs on Russia because there is no real trade with the US. Is that the case?
Well, in isolation, that could be the plausible explanation, because at the moment, Russia exports about $3 billion to the US. This is the figure for 2024. At the peak, we have seen $30 billion exported to the US and even more historically. So the share of trade is very small, but taken together with other steps. For example, Russia's CEO for the investment fund, Russian investment fund, is at the moment in Washington as we speak, negotiating deals with the current US administration, potentially sanctions relief as well.
Trump has vowed to impose sanctions on countries that trade with Russia. If he was seriously looking to hurt Russia or keep it in line with all the other tariffs, would a baseline tariff of 10% not be simpler and more effective?
That would definitely be simpler and more effective. In fact, it's easy to target Russian exports because Russia exports at the moment mostly to China and India, a bit to Turkey. But mostly 60% of Russian exports is oil and gas. If you add other natural resources, you get to 85. So you could specifically target Russian oil and gas, and that would already be extremely impactful.
Ukraine goods will have the generic 10% levy imposed on all goods exported to the US. Could that 10% have an impact on Ukraine's ability to fight Russia?
On the margin, I think these tariffs are important, but not critical for Ukraine's performance. Ukraine exported to the US less than $1 billion last year. I think it's about 900 million or so. Yes, it will be noticeable, but for Ukraine, it exports a lot to Europe. It exports a lot to the global south. So it is an impact on the margin, but it will not impact the war or protecting itself from Russia's invasion.
As to where we go from here, predicting Trump's behaviour is difficult for most people. Do you see a pattern, though? Can you make a case for what he might be planning to do with Russia in terms of trade?
For me, the critical news would be about sanctions relief. It is interesting that Russia kept on saying for the last 3 years publicly that sanctions are not working, but privately they have been producing a lot of research how to counteract sanctions. And it's ironic that the first ask they have from the United States is about sanctions relief. What we have seen, the few observations so far, is that the Black Sea deal seems to be more advantageous to Russia than to anybody else. The same on this temporary energy ceasefire, again, is more advantageous to Russia than to Ukraine or anybody else. So we see the pattern emerging. Of course, it's only a couple of observations. I just hope that we don't see further relief on sanctions before any durable ceasefire happens with Ukraine.
Elina Ribakova from the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Great to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.